Hey, what is up? My name is Chris and welcome to Coding in Public. Last time we started working on this countdown timer. It's got this Neumorphic design. That's what we worked on last time. And this time we're going to work on all the JavaScript that makes it work. So you'd come in here and say some event like it is your birthday. It is a statement of fact. And then you'd come in here and you'd add some date and time. And when this gets down to 0, it actually does like a confetti thing. So we'll show you that later since this is so many seconds here. We're not going to wait that long, but let's go ahead and jump right in and work on the JavaScript. Okay, so our index.html page is done, our CSS is done, and I've noticed several things that were just kind of dumb the way we did it, so I might actually do a third video following that one, or following this one that tries to fix some of the errors. But today we're going to work on the JavaScript, and we're going to build this from scratch. And you might remember last time we ended the video with nothing on the screen. That's because we've hidden both of the elements. Well, today we need to do a few things that will actually decide whether the form shows or whether the event shows. We're going to start though by getting some query selectors. Now these query selectors are going to be used throughout the document. So we'll say event container. That's why we're declaring them up front here. And this will be equal to document.querySelector event container. And then we're going to do the same thing for the form container. And if you highlight the word event and hit Command D, you'll select the next instance. And so you can grab the form container there. Now, we are also going to need the different elements in here. You might remember we've got, let's see, day title, day name, all the way down. So what we're going to do is we need to select these, and these are all IDs. We're going to use those and repopulate those second by second as or whenever our event shows. So we can come in here and say these are event selectors, I guess. And we'll say const. And let's see, day title, I guess is what we can say. And that will be equal to document.querySelector. And then that will be day title. And then I think we had day name. So let me come in here and say day name. And this will be day name. Let's double check that that's how we had that day name. Okay, so now what we need to do is copy this down 3 more times, and we're going to say day, day, and these should be, let's see, day and then hour. And this should be hour as well. And I guess so should this. So we could have just updated all those 4 at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to have minute next. And then finally we will have second next. Let's double check that all that looks correct. Okay, we've got seconds. What are we doing down here? Okay, these should be second. That way everything's the same. Okay, so we've got the day, or all the event selectors for the actual div there. Next, we actually need to figure out how time works. So we'll say time selectors. We're going to use this to calculate the time. So we'll say const. First of all, second is going to be equal to 1,000 milliseconds. And then minute will be equal to second times, let's see, there's 60 seconds in a minute. And then hour will be equal to minute times 60. And then finally, day will be equal to hour times 24. Okay, that's just how time works. So we've got that going and ready for us to use. And let's see what else we might need. We're going to eventually need a countdown timer variable, so let's just set that now. So countdown timer. Okay, we won't set it to anything right now. Let's just declare it, and we'll use that to clear the timer when we need to. You'll see how that works in a little bit, but the first thing we should probably do is figure out if we've got anything in our application storage. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here and look at my application storage, and I've already got something in here because I was sampling this earlier. We're going to store our event in the local storage of the client's browser. We'll set it to this key, event_tracker.event, and then we will add it as a value. So we're going to do several things. First of all, we need to write a function that will check the storage, and then we're going to write an event listener on the window that we'll just say window load. All right, so we know when the window loads, we're going to check that storage function. So let's go ahead and just write the event listener first. So we'll say add event listener, and we're listening for DOM content. Let's see, content loaded, and we'll run our function check local storage. Now this is what we need to actually write up here. So we'll say function check local storage. It doesn't need to take in anything, but what we're going to do is write an if statement, and we'll say if local storage dot get item, and then we're checking for that event tracker dot, if I can type, a dot event. And what we want to know is if it's equal to nothing. And now that will be if you first run it on your machine. So if it's got nothing in there, or we could say if it's equal to our empty array. So if either of those are the case, that would tell us that we have no event currently populated and we need to show the form so that they can add an event. So we'll write a function here called show form, and we'll run that eventually. Right now we've got nothing going on. Else, in other words, if there is something there, let's get a little more space so we can see what's going on. If we do have something in the local storage, then let's go ahead and get the event. So we'll write a variable here and we'll just call it event. And because it will be returned to us as a string, we'll say JSON parse and then local storage dot get item, and we're going to get the event tracker dot event. Now with that, we're then going to show the event. Now here we do need to pass in a few things. We're going to get from this event 2 items. We'll get both the title, so event.title, and event.date. So this will pass us the first item and then the second item. And they're going to be, we're going to have them set in here as key value pairs for title and date. I'll show you how we'll create that object in a little bit. Okay, so we've got that going right now. Nothing much is going on. If we try to run this, in fact, if I save, we should get an error because we haven't actually written show form yet. So let's write show form. So function show form. And if you remember from writing the HTML, we just had a class called hidden that we would show either on the form or on the event, depending on what's going on. Now, right now, they both have that class on them. But what we're going to do is we'll say function show form, let's see, like that. And then let's see, rather than manually retyping this for both the form and the event, let's write some helper functions. So we'll say function add hidden class, and what we'll do is say function add hidden class. And then we will take in an element, whatever we pass into it, and that element we will say class list dot add hidden. Then let's repeat all of this. Come in here, and instead of adding, then we will, let's see if I can select all those, we will remove the hidden class. Okay, so we can use that here now in our show form to say what we want to do is we want to remove the hidden class, and we want to remove it off of the, let's see, was it form container? Yeah. And then just in case the event, so now it's showing up here, this is part of the way we set it up before. I'm not sure what I was thinking, but we've got that form showing just in case for some reason, and especially, I guess, once we delete the event and want to go back and enter in a new one, we are going to want to go ahead and add a hidden class to the event container just to make sure that it's on there. Now, it'll already be on there right now, but that'll be just insurance for the future. So we save it, and now we load, and there it is. So cool. All right, now the next thing we need to do, let's see. We do need to show the event. We also need to actually use the form and write a function off that. Let's just do the show event now since we've already got something going for the form. So we'll say function show event. And this show event, we do actually need to populate it with a few items. We will need to pass in a title, and we'll need to pass in an event. This is what we've already kind of got going up here. Now what we need to do is actually write the function that will handle all of that. Well, some of this will be familiar because we're going to just reverse this. So let's copy these down here. And we will say this needs to be event now. And that will run that through our helper function. And this will be form. So that should work properly. Now we need to take the title and the event and run those through this function as well. We'll write 2 functions here. One, we need to save it to the local storage, make sure that it's saved properly. And 2, we will need to make sure that we display it in the UI. So for saving to the local storage, we'll say save event to local storage. we will pass in the title and the event. And then to show it in the UI, we will say start countdown timer. And here again, we'll pass in the title and the event. Now, because we haven't submitted the form yet, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So let's go ahead and kill those for now, and then run down here and write a function to submit the form. Let's grab the actual form here, and we're going to run, let's see, document.querySelector, and we've just got one form tag, so we can do it off that rather than adding the class. And then we're looking for the action of submit, that event listener. Now, when we submit the event, we want to grab the event, and that's because when you submit events, you'll actually refresh the page. We don't want to do that. So we'll say e.prevent default, and that prevents it from running that normal activity on the form of refreshing the page. Next, let's grab the title. So we'll say document.querySelector, and we're looking for the title. And then let's grab the event. And let's call this event input, and I'll show you why here. So we want the event itself. And when we do that, we're going to get whatever we've typed in here, and then we're just going to get a date from here. What we need to do is run this date through a new date class that JavaScript already has. So we'll say const event equals new date, and then what we want to do is take the event input dot value, which is the value of the date, and we want to say get time. Now what this will do is it'll give us, let's go ahead and console log this, it'll give us a string, a number. That number will be the number of milliseconds, since I think it's January 1st, 1970, epoch time, whatever that is. So we can use this to calculate the current time from this date. Now before we start getting wild with what we're going to do here, we need to run a validator. And this will just double check that there's something in the form itself. So we can say if title.value is equal to nothing, or if event input dot value is equal to nothing, then we want to just return, and we could write our own little alert, but for now we'll just use a kind of a standard JavaScript alert. We'll say please enter a title and a date. And by returning it, it'll jump us out of this whole event submit form. Now, when somebody submits the form, just like if there's something already in the local storage, we want to run show event, and we're going to pass it the title dot value and the event. And lastly, just kind of as a nice little trick or thing for the user, well, let's clear out the inputs. So we'll say title dot value is equal to nothing, and then event input dot value is equal to nothing. That'll clear both of those out for us and make it a little easier on the user if they delete an event and then want to immediately enter another one. Now let's go ahead and run this, and we'll just say event, and then we will add some kind of date and time and hit new countdown, and it's showing. So that's cool. What we need to do is actually work off these save events and start countdown timers, but since that's a little more involved, let's do one more quick thing, and let's add an event listener for the delete button. So let's grab that event button, and I think we entitled that event button, and then let's just run the event listener right on here, add event listener, and we're listening for a click. Now when that click triggers, we want to hide the event. Now, did we already write our function up above here? So show form, show event. So we want to actually show the form. So we'll just come in here and say when that happens, we want to just show form. Now in this show form, then we need to actually do a few other things. We want to delete the event from local storage. And we'll write that function here in a second. And then let's go ahead and grab that title again. And just to make it easier on our users, we will go ahead and focus on the title. So that when we remove this, let's go ahead and hide this so it won't error out on us. So what that will do is we hit countdown, hit here, and it automatically selects this so they can enter in a new event right away. All right, so hopefully this isn't too disorganized for you, kind of jumping around back and forth, but let's write this delete event from local storage function, and I think that'll get us ready to write the last kind of major section, which is saving it in local storage and populating that, calculating the time, updating it second by second. So we'll say delete event from local storage, and this doesn't need to take in anything because all we're going to do is actually set the local storage. We can do that by saying local storage.set item. We can do that by just saying event tracker.event. And we'll set it to an empty array. So that should run automatically for us. So let's come over here to our application. Let's change this value manually right now so that we can see it clear out. Start this here, hit delete, and it removes it. Sets it back up and starts selecting this. So that's cool. We've got most of our functionality working, showing the event and then removing it. Now, obviously when we come in here and hit show event, right now nothing is updating here at all. The title isn't, the dates, all that kind of stuff. So that's the next thing we need to do. We need to both save our event to local storage and then set a countdown timer. So saving event to the local storage will be the easier of the two. So let's do that. We've deleted it. Let's now write a function that will save it. So we'll say function save to local storage. And here we do need to actually pass in a few things. I'm pretty sure. Let's come down here. We need the title and the event. Hey, future Chris here. So I don't know why I keep naming these parameters title and event. It should be title and date. It doesn't really matter as long as I pass the arguments in correctly. In other words, as long as the second argument I pass in is the actual date. But anyhow, sorry for all the confusing naming here. Back to the video. So here's where we'll actually create our object. So let's say const event is going to be equal to, and then let's do an object. It's just going to be title and then date. While you don't have to add a comma after this last one, I think it's good practice because then if you forget later, just always adding them doesn't hurt anything. We'll say local storage dot set item, and we want to set the item just like we did for deleting. We'll type in the name of the key, and then this time what we want to do is take that object and pass it in as a string. So we'll say stringify, and we're going to stringify the event. Let's come in here. Let's see, function, title, event. It's yelling at me. And that's because this should be date. Let's try that again. Come in here, add something else, hit countdown, and there we go. Title is whatever we typed in. The date is that time from epoch. Now, if I come in here and delete it, it should remove all that. So we've got everything done except for the hard part. All right, this show start countdown timer. So we'll say start countdown timer. We're going to pass in the title and the event. See, where should we do this? Let's do it right here. So we'll say function, and we're going to start the countdown timer. Now, one thing we haven't gotten is the actual title of our form or of our event. So this event title is what we need. We're going to update it. So we'll say const event title is equal to what we just grabbed, that event title. And then we'll update the event title's text content with our title that we passed in. That's the easy part. Now, the next thing we need to do is take our date, that time, and actually run a function that will update all of those different elements, the hours, the seconds, the minutes, all that. So let's write another function called update countdown, and we'll pass it in the date. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way, I think you'll see in a moment, it will help us update it more frequently. So we'll say function update countdown, and then let's write the function update countdown, and we're going to get a date passed in. Now here's what we need to do. We need to figure out the current time first. And what we're going to do is use this number that's passed in the date, and we're going to subtract the current date from the current time from whatever this date is that was passed in. Const current time, we're just going to say is equal to new date. So this grabs the current date dot get time, which will give us that same kind of number that we got when we originally submitted an event date. And what we want to do is figure out what the countdown time is. So let's see, countdown time is going to be equal to the date, which is the date that was passed in, minus the current time. So let's go ahead and console log this just so you can see what's going on. So we'll come in here, we add stuff, countdown, okay? This is how many milliseconds are between the current date, or the date that was passed in our current time. Now we're going to write some time math here that will tell us basically what the new day, the new time, the new hour, and the new second should be. I think I missed minute in there somewhere, but we'll say const new day is equal to, and what we want is, well, let me first show you kind of what we could get. So we could say countdown time divided by day. Now if I do this, let's get some spaces in here, and then I console log this, come in here, and we're getting some percentage. So this is less than a day because it's under 0. What we want to do then is we want to run math.floor, which will give us an integer. So it'll round down, and we're going to grab the math.floor of that. So now it should say 0. Now if I clear this out and put in another date, let's say I put in a date, I don't know, like a week in the future, it's going to give us 7. So it's actually basically giving us the integer of the number of days we have left. Okay, we're going to copy this down now, and what we want now is the new hour. We want an integer, but this time what we want is the countdown, not just divided by day, we want the remainder that's left when that's done. That remainder we can then divide by hours. Now we need to actually wrap this first section in parentheses here, and this will give us the hours that are left over. Let's go ahead and console log that. Now we got 23. All right, 23 hours left over after the days have been calculated. We can do the same thing here now for new, let's see, minute here. We want not countdown time by day, but countdown time by hour, and then that hour will be divided by minute. Same thing down here, except we will want second and minute, and this needs to be new second. All right, so now we've got our days, we've got our hours, we've got our minutes, and we've got our seconds. Now all that's left is to update the UI. So we'll come here and say update event. We'll grab, these are our variables up top. The day title, that was the number, which probably could be named better, but text content is now going to be equal to new day. So let's just refresh this, and you see now this automatically switches to 7 already. So it's saying it's 7 days in the future. Let's copy these down, and now we've got day title. All right, let's save it and see what happens. Okay, cool. So it's showing us each, and if I save again, it's going to refresh, and it's actually grabbing those seconds each time live, which is kind of cool. Now, what's eventually going to happen is, right now this sounds fine. 7 days, 23 hours, 56 minutes, 24 seconds. But anytime it's a 1 on any of these, so 1 day, we don't want it to say days, we want it to say day. Same thing, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second. But at 0, it can be seconds, and at any other number, it can be seconds. So let's run some little ternary functions down here to update the names. And what I mean by that is we're going to update the day name dot text content, and what we want it to say is day. But then let's go ahead and write a little function in here. And by using backticks, we can actually run some JavaScript right inside this. So we'll say if new day is equal to 1, then don't add anything extra. Otherwise, add an S. So I'll save this, and nothing's going to happen because I guess we're going to go to lowercase because I put these in capitalized to remind myself to change them later. But if I come down here, we're eventually going to see our seconds update. Let's see if we can get this done before the seconds get to 1. Come on, did we give it? No. All right, and on top of that, I forgot to change this, so we were late. All right, hour, this is minute, and this is second. All right, so those update properly. Let's go ahead and just remove this and add a new event. We'll do 1 minute in the future. Oh, I did 0 minutes. Let's do it again, and let's do a full minute. So there we go, 1 minute. So it is working properly. That's what we want. Now, this is all fine and good. It updates once, but what we want to do is run this on a loop. So not only do we want to update it originally, but then every second we want to update it. So you might remember that we declared this countdown timer up here originally. Well, we can come down here. Let's see if I can find it now. And we can say that the countdown timer is now going to be equal to set interval. And this is a way you can run something again and again multiple times. And we need a function in here. And so we'll write that. And then we eventually will also need a number of milliseconds, which will be 1,000. That will be every second. Now the function we're going to write in here is simply the same thing that's up here. So we're going to run it once originally, and then we're going to say every second after that, keep running it. So if I save it, it should now update automatically. 30, 29, and it's just counting down automatically. Now that leaves only one more thing, and that is that once it gets down to 0, we want to remove that form. We want to show or remove the event, show the form, and then show our confetti. So where we will trigger that is inside of our, what do we call this, update countdown function. So we'll write an if statement that says if new day is equal to 0, and we're going to do this for all of them. So new hour, and I'll just finish this and be right back with you. So if all those are equal to 0, then what we want to do is run a cool animation. Now I've got this thing, let's jump back over here, called Canvas Confetti. It's just this NPM script, and it does all the work for you. So all we have to do is copy this, and let me open up a terminal here. And let's see, let's go ahead and save this as a dev dependency. So capital D or dash save dev will run that. So we've got that now connected to our package.json file, which originally I have this set up with Parcel, so I already have npm locally running in this directory. Now all we're going to do is run the animation. So he's actually got a bunch of, or maybe she, I don't know who wrote this, got a bunch of examples here. What we're going to do is just grab this one here and say, let's see, all this is fine. I think duration, I just wanted it to be like, I think I did maybe like 3 seconds. I don't remember, something like that. And he's got it where it's running automatically, and that's fine as long as it's inside our if statement. But what we also want to do is we want to clear the interval that's constantly updating. So we'll say we want to clear the countdown timer. Isn't that what we called it? Countdown timer interval. And then we want to set a timeout. And what this will do is it will wait a couple seconds, let that confetti go with everything at 0. So we'll say set timeout, and let's see, we need to write inside here both a function and then a number of milliseconds. So we'll say wait 2 seconds, and this function will just be our hide event. And that's what we already wrote below our hide event. What do we call that? Show event. No, we called it show form. That's right. So show form. You can see it right down here. That will remove the hidden class, update everything. So let's save that, come back over this way. Let's delete this, and let's pick some event. I don't know. It is your birthday. We'll just start with that again. Come in here and say in 1 minute, which is 4 seconds, 3. There's our confetti. It waits 2 seconds and it disappears. All right, cool. I'm not sure why it was kind of messing up there for a moment. Let's double check that everything's good here. Add an event. Come in here and add an event. Let's just double check everything's working. Okay, it's not doing that weird janky thing. I don't know what that was, but we're good now. So let's get all the way down. I'm going to fast forward here for you. All right, hopefully that was fun, and I feel like there's no better way to go out on this video than with a little bit of confetti. So thanks for watching, and happy coding.